Will the Committee on Budget please come to order? It is 9:02 a.m. and it is Tuesday, July 23, 2024. Joining us for the committee today, we have our Committee Vice Chair Wire, followed by our Council Vice Chair Kia Aina, Councilmember Say, as well as Councilmember Dos Santos Tam joining us as well. And Councilmember Talba will be on his way. Next up, we have announcements. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7, the Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda via two ways. We will first have remotely and then in person in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name and each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement, and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify by video conference will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize the raise hand feature on Zoom to be called upon. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak, and then I will identify you by your last 3 digits of your phone number, and when your number is called, please press *6 to unmute when prompted. When we get to that point, if we do have anyone online, I will repeat that. Some friendly reminders and tips: if you are video conferencing, please video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the remote testifiers have testified, I will proceed to the in-person testimony in the council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. There won't be a timer online, but you will hear a buzzer. So HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating from outside of the council chambers, if there are any, I will ask them that in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, that the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audiovisual contact with that member and will not be able to reconvene until we re-establish contact. Therefore, and if there is any members that do join us online, I'll ask them to announce beforehand if they will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. For written testimonies, those testimonies will include the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, and will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please silence or turn off all cell phones. Okay, with that, we are moving to agenda item number 1 for action, which is Resolution 24-187, which authorizes a transfer of $281,000 in general fund monies and $111,450 in Hanauma Bay Nature Preserve Fund monies from the Department of Emergency Services Ocean Safety Activity, current expenses character of expenditure, to Ocean Safety Activity Equipment character of expenditure for fiscal year 2025 to cover the replacement of 8 lifeguard towers at a cost of approximately $45,000 per tower, including 2 tower replacements reserved for Hanauma Bay and replacement of 1 4-seat utility task vehicle at Hanauma Bay, which costs approximately $21,000. With us from the administration, we have Acting Director Kurt Lager from the Honolulu Ocean Safety Department. Good morning, Director.
Hi, good morning. Acting Director Kurt Lager from the Honolulu Ocean Safety Department. Thank you for letting us be here. We are asking for the transfer of funds. We purchased the towers using fiscal year 24 monies on a master agreement. The cost of installation has been requested from BFS for us to move the monies from current expenses to equipment so that we can install these towers using fiscal year 25 monies. 6 of the towers will be installed in various different locations on the island, with 2 of them specifically for Hanauma Bay. The utility task vehicle is for Hanauma Bay for moving equipment up and down the road there. It gets very congested going up and down the road at Hanama with the amount of people there.
Thank you, Acting Director. Members, are there any questions for Acting Director Lager for this resolution? Okay, I have a question, Acting Director. My question is, when you say that moving the equipment will allow for those towers to be installed, what will then be the process after BFS receives this resolution and approves that transfer?
Sure. Thank you for that question, Councilmember. We have the towers at our headquarters right now and sitting in our parking lot. We have a master agreement with a company that will come and take the towers to the beach where we're installing them, and then they will take the tower out of the beach and move it back to our headquarters, which we then will either reuse the tower somewhere else or remove it completely.
Okay, thank you. And so to clarify, you bought, as you stated, it was bought or purchased with FY24 funding, right? And then for the actual construction or installation, it will be used with FY25 money, which is due to this transfer, correct?
Yeah, specifically to take the tower from our headquarters to the beach where it's going to be, install the skids that the tower sits on, put everything together, the ramp, the stairs, everything, and then removal of the old tower and back to our headquarters.
Okay, understood. And since it's been purchased since FY24, during the FY25 budget, did we not see that it was enough funding was put into the equipment funding for this to be
so
executed?
we're purchasing more towers with fiscal year 25 equipment money. It takes, from the time we purchase, it takes about a year for it to get to us. So that's why we're just now installing towers that were bought last year. We just got the towers delivered last week.
Okay, just delivered last week and purchased from the master agreement or vendor at the beginning of last fiscal year?
I believe so, that's correct, yes.
Okay, wow, that's good. Good to know about that information and about that equipment. And thank you, members. Okay, council members say.
Yes, Director, one question in regards to the impact of the transfer from current expenses. What impact has it had upon the current expense line item budget?
It has minimal impact on us right now. We're taking from various different object codes from savings in those object codes to move over.
Just in anticipation that you could use those funds for a discretionary budgeting process next year.
Thank you, council member. Members, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we will proceed with remote testifiers. We have Angela Melody Young.
Aloha. Committee, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. Just going to testify in favor of the lifeguard stations. Thanks.
Mahalo. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, there are no more remote testifiers. We will now move to in-person testifiers. Is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, members, we're back in discussion. Okay, seeing none, members, my recommendation, the chair recommends that resolution 24-187 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward. Agenda item number 2, we have Bill 25, which repeals an outdated ordinance related to license fees as introduced by Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. And before I call the administration up, I would like to yield the floor to Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair, for hearing this bill. This is one of several bills that I've been working on this year that repeal various obsolete or outdated provisions. Specifically, this ordinance was enacted years and years and years ago under powers that the state gave us. The powers were taken away by the state legislature in 2001. And so even if we wanted to enforce this, we couldn't. So it's time to repeal it.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have from the City Administration, we have Director Kawano.
Good morning, Budget Chair Cordero, Honorable Council members, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. We concur with Council Member Dos Santos Tam recommendation to repeal the bill. No issues, no questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the director? Seeing none. Okay, thank you, Director. This is for second reading, so we've heard it before twice. We will now proceed with remote testifiers. We don't have any registered remote testifiers. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none, we are now closing remote testifiers. We don't have any registered in-person testifiers. Is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, okay, members, we're back in discussion. Back in discussion. Okay, seeing none. The chair recommends that Bill 25, 2024 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Agenda item number 3 is Resolution 24-11H, which adopts the policy to guide the award of monies from the Grants and Aid Fund, starting with the fiscal year 2026 grants solicitation, with no organization be awarded more than one grant with a maximum award of $150,000 per year. This was introduced by myself after reviewing the Grants and Aids report, the Grants and Aids Commission report, I should state that correctly. And I do want to thank them for their hard work. And as we've seen through 2020, that the increase and then the recommendation through the throughout the years of meeting back in the middle as opposed to going back to its lowered original award amount. Thank you. Next, we do have the city administration. I don't know who exactly would be here, but I guess anyone from the Department of Community Services? Okay. We have Director Krucky here. And also with us, we have Shana Kagi, which I'll let Director Krucky introduce whoever is here from DCS.
Thank you. Anton Krucky, Director of the Department of Community Services, Budget Chair Cordero, Vice Budget Chair Wire, and Vice Chair Kia'aina, and council members. As your resolution states, there's been a fluctuation in the ceilings over the years, and the commission was looking at this amount. There's dynamics on both sides. If you raise the amount, you're going to have fewer awards. The organizations have a better capability sometimes because they're larger organizations to administer what they're doing. When we lower the amounts and the real lower ones, they may or may not have administrators in their group, in their organizations, and we have to work with them more closely. Really, setting this amount is clearly up to the council. We will administer at any level and are happy to do so. And if you have any questions too, I have my administrator, Shana Kagi, here, if anyone's interested in any of the dynamics of the Grants and Aid Commission.
Thank you, members. Members, if you would like to indulge me, as introduced, I just would like to have a few questions. First off, the director and Mr. Akaji, if you are, either one of you, if you'll be able to answer. If we do change the ceiling for the maximum amount of grants, how many more agencies may be able to receive funding?
We'd estimate that maybe 14 more, if you move from 200 to 150, would be able to receive funding.
Okay, thank you. And the funding, if they were even to receive the maximum award, is not necessary to actually fund their whole operations, right?
I think when we go to a higher amount, they look at more capital projects than procedure projects. But a lot of the things that we've seen over the last 3 years, we won't see going forward. Like people estimated a certain amount of usage in their program, and then COVID hit, and they couldn't have students, as an example, in their classes, and it took a while for them to readjust. We don't see any significant issues going from 200 to 150. Like we said, about 14 more organizations will be able to receive funding.
Okay, understood. And has your department received any feedback or requests, or even the commission, if the commission has, to scale back to the previous amounts or ceilings for the maximum grants?
I don't really see this as people making requests like that. I think the commission, when they looked at the portfolios that they were reviewing, they just thought that a broader array of giving out these grants was what they were looking to do. So it's really a reflection of what they saw.
Understood. And I don't know if you could expand on that about a broader array of funding that they could provide, and that's through providing more organizations the ability to receive funding?
Yeah, you know, the commission, they do a scoring methodology,
Yeah.
right? And then once they do the scoring, all the tussle is at that line where you draw the line. And what they saw, if they saw organizations that in their scoring, they still felt were worthwhile, but the line had kept them out. I think they were really dealing with that dynamic. And when they saw that, they thought giving out more would be better, was what they were looking at.
Understood. And may I ask, I guess, the composition or the timing of the Grants and Aids Commission? How often did they meet? You know, with the report, how often, how much time did they take to select who the awardees would be, as well as, okay, actually, I'll ask the first question, the composition and like how often they met and how the timeline of when they got to their report.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that Shane can talk about not just the commission meetings, but then once you award, what the process is for giving out that award, and then at the timeframes that we have to give out the notice to proceed. Shane?
Good morning, Budget Chair Cordero, Honorable Council members. Shane Akagi, Administrator, Office of Grants Management. Thank you for that question. In terms of how often the commission meets, a majority of their meetings happen at the tail end of the calendar year. So they meet once in December to elect their officers and also to set the schedule for the following calendar year. By ordinance, they're supposed to receive the grant applications no later than January 20th. We try to get them to the commissioners by January 1st because, of course, scoring and reviewing 150, 170 plus applications is quite time consuming. They'll usually take from January to the beginning of February to score the applications. We usually give them the deadline of the second week in February to submit the scores to us, and then they'll have a series of meetings in which they review the scores, review if there are any score variants and if they want to change the scores, and finally, prior about 1 or 2 weeks before the deadline of March 4th, which is ordinance as well, to get the commission's report to council, we'll have one final meeting and approve the report, which we'll then submit to council.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Akagi, I know you've been here through the different ceilings of the maximum grant awards. And so I know also that you've also seen the change in the charter when the council had less, I guess, collaboration with the grants and aids. I was trying to find the best word for it. But through all that, I know that there's been a few recommendations to change it, especially after the especially after 2020, I would say. So it's been a few years of recommendations to allow for more awarding of grants. Is that okay to state?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. And also, with that, I wanted to ask, I know that maybe DCS as a department may not have received such requests from those who are at that line, but maybe has the commission received any requests to push for policies to be made to change that maximum award besides the report?
I'm not certain if the commissioners themselves have. We do have Vice Chair of the GIE Advisory Commission, Grant Kagimoto, here.
Yeah, would love to.
If you have any questions too.
Yeah.
So.
Would love to hear from a commissioner who went through that arduous process that you just shared with the Budget Committee.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Grant Kagimoto, Vice Chair of Grants and Aid Advisory Commission. I personally have not received any, request. I think for the most part, unless we are on various boards that actually ask for money, we don't have that much personal contact, thankfully, from most of the community groups that solicit funds, because there are 150 plus applications. It would be very taxing to do that.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Kagimoto, first off, thank you very much for serving on the Grants and Aids Commission. We really appreciate it. And thank you very much for the recommendations and the report as well, which of course led me to introducing this resolution. With that, would you be able to share a bit of the discussions that led to the recommendation in the report?
I think it's been a really interesting time. I've been on the commission, I think 7 years now. And so I go through the pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID period. And I was surprised that the number of applications didn't really change. I thought either they would drop off dramatically because a lot of the groups would fold and disappear, or they would increase dramatically because a lot of the organizations couldn't fundraise actively. They couldn't have public, gatherings, et cetera, et cetera. But they stayed really steady. They've stayed at 150 plus every year. And I think our decision to reduce the money is simply kind of an emotional decision. We see the need every year. It never changes. It just is always there. And that we want to reach out and help more people. And the 14, 15, or 16 extra groups that we can help, we feel that's a real plus for the community in general. And that it's just, again, we're trying to address something that just never ends. And we want to try to make some kind of real statement that we as commissioners, and it's a unanimous decision as commissioners, want to spread the wealth a little bit more.
Thank you. Thank you for that sentiment as well as that explanation and your experience as well. And thank you. 7 years, I didn't realize it was that long. Thank you.
I did have black hair before I began. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, thank you very much, Vice Chair.
You're welcome.
Okay, members, any questions for either Vice Chair Kagimoto? We also have Mr. Akagi, or as well as Director Krucky on the different awards, or also the amount of the award. Any discussion? Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Thank you for your service. I know that there's a certain percentage that goes to nonprofits within each district. Is that correct?
Yes.
What percentage of that?
Thank you for that question, Vice Chair Kiaina. It's not so much a percentage, but the ordinance and also the states that at least no less than $250,000 specific and exclusive goes to each council district, meaning that the nonprofit spends the entirety of its award to serving residents within that council district.
Okay, and do you what was the average per district for this past fiscal year that you awarded?
We'll have to go take a look at that. I do have the report as part of the Grants and Aid Advisory Commission's report, but I wasn't able to bring that today. So,
but it was. I would venture it was higher than 250. It was probably half a million. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely higher than the minimum.
On the educational campaign front, when you guys put out the solicitation, because I'll be honest with you, I guess I didn't know that. When I was here, I would probably be promoting it more so that the smaller nonprofits in my district will feel that they had a chance, because they feel that they're competing with the big boys island-wide sometimes, so they're not thinking. And I would also think that, for small grants like maybe 10,000, 25, 50,000, it might be advantageous to them. So then for the smaller group, because they might be able to get the money. Okay. How about I'll follow up with you separately on that, and nothing formal. You could just get one email, I know, so then I can know how to help my district.
Sure, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions for any of them? Okay, all right. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you three for being here. Really, thank you. Okay. Next, we will proceed with remote testifiers. We don't have any registered remote testifiers, but we do have I do see Angela Melody Young.
Aloha. Angela Melody Young testifying in strong support of the grants. So nonprofit organizations in partnership with government can provide to the community in a better capacity. And while values and priorities and operations may differ, when nonprofits work to provide things that government cannot, it really covers all the bases in the community. For example, Biki in the city, where a private nonprofit and government partnership was operated with funding from the city to provide infrastructure for bicycling and bicyclists' needs, while the nonprofit provided the idea and also the operational logistics because the city couldn't think of it. And then also Humane Society and the city's partnership is a good example of funding from the government to administer services to trap and neuter feral cats, because while the city may have funding, it does not have the facilities or trained doctors and clinics to provide such services to the general public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Anyone else online for this resolution? Seeing none, we don't have any registered in-person testifiers, but is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, members, we are back in discussion. Any discussion on this request or resolution, for the maximum grant award to go down to $150,000? Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Chair, I just wanted to thank you for looking after the interest of the program and looking to see how we could provide more awards collectively, because I think that was the right balance, the dollar amount. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. The chair recommends that Resolution 24-118 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward, we have Resolution 24-117 approving the transfer of parcels 1 through 6 within Pohala Marsh, Waikele, Oahu, tax map keys 19-3-001:002 and 6, 21 and 22 land area, which is 32 acres, to the State of Hawaii's Department of Land and Natural Resources at no cost. Members, at our May 21, 2024 meeting, the committee amended under OCS 2024-0540 and postponed further action on the resolution. With us from the administration, we have Director of the Budget and Fiscal Services, Andy Kawano, as well as from the state, we have Jason Misaki from Division of Forestry and Wildlife from the State Department of Land and Natural Resources. First up, we'll take Budget Director first.
Andy Kawano again, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Thank you for allowing us to testify with regard to Resolution 24-117. We support the resolution to do the transfer to the state. This resolution was put on hold back in May, pending an opportunity to ask questions to state DLNR, and we have a representative today to carry that out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so are you suggesting I call up Mr. Misaki?
Budget Chair, yes, when you're ready, you'll be able to do that, yes.
Thank you. Okay, do you have a question for the Budget Director? No, okay, thank you very much. Next up, we will have from the state's Department of Land and Natural Resources, from the Division of Forestry and Wildlife, we have Mr. Jason Misaki. Thank you very much for joining us here at the City Council. Please state your name for the record, and then...
Good morning, Chair Cordero and council members. Thank you for having me. My name is Jason Misaki with the State of Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources. And I'm here to answer any questions that you guys may have about the transfer.
Thank you. Next, Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Thank you, and thank you for communicating with me. You were the one who sent me the email, and I appreciate it. And I know that you were a little surprised because you thought everything was taken care of, but I'll be honest with you, quite frankly, you know, if something's put before us and it's agricultural lands and we know nothing about it, you would think that I would fight for us, right, to keep the land, to see if other people could use it. So all I just recommend is that you can't take things for granted. When it comes to land, land is so precious. And you guys already have 1.3 million acres of 4 million acres in Hawaii. And so in the future, I guess I'm just saying that you guys should do your job and inform all of us, not just the members from the district, but people like myself who care about keeping land in the hands of the title holder.
Understood.
So I know that you guys do good work, but I didn't know nothing about this land exchange. And I did not know that all of the history and everything. And so, of course, I was looking for land for nonprofit organizations, and this is not the land to do that for. Thank you for the good work that you guys do at DLNR.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council members, any other questions? Okay, so Mr. Misaki, I have a question relating to when the public hearing was held in December for the, is it how many parcels is it again? 6 parcels, correct? So were they held individually or or in totality for the public hearing? Were they taken up as different items?
I believe it was held in its entirety for all of the parcels, and I believe it was a remote meeting because it was during COVID.
Oh, okay, so it happened, December 3, 2021. And may I ask, I know that there was a report post-public hearing and its recommendations, but would you be able to share with the City Council about the outcome of the public hearing?
I do not believe there was any testimony at the public meeting. And then subsequent to that, the approval of the parcels was suggested or was brought forward to go to the final processes.
Okay, understood. So what is the plan by DLNR for the Pauhala Marsh?
So the transfer of the parcels basically follows a land license agreement that was executed between the state and the city in 2002. And the land license agreement recognized that the parcels within the Pauhala Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary were important to endangered species habitat, wetland ecosystem function, and recovery actions of those endangered species. So we agreed that we would manage that as a wildlife sanctuary from 2002. I believe that the land license is in perpetuity. So this transfer just basically formalizes that land license and allows the department to take control over those parcels to manage it as a wildlife sanctuary. Right now we have about $1.4 million secured to do restoration projects within the marsh. When we acquire these parcels, or if the parcels are approved, we plan to apply for more funding to do more restoration work, to recover endangered species, and to create more wetland habitat.
Thank you for that information. I do want to confirm that if you want to hear me, I think you got to press on, off. You got to do it. Okay, so I'll just try to talk louder. Okay, so those 6 parcels, I think there's either shared jurisdiction by different city agencies. Is that correct? Or maybe budget director, maybe you can correct me, because it was under Department of Environmental Services, Department of Facility Maintenance, and Department of Parks and Recreation? Yes, okay. And so with no public testimony, they concurred to the transfer, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And were there any other input or comments or support or even objections from any state agencies other than DLNR?
Nope.
Okay. And so this question is for both yourself as well as the budget director. So we know that the state, especially DLNR, is overseeing the preservation of lands as well as supporting the increase for agricultural lands. So how does that fit into the state's overall plans for agricultural lands?
It doesn't it doesn't fall into the plan for agriculture. While the land is designated as an agricultural area, since 1920, a lot of different factors have changed the condition of the land. There were fill material brought in, the land was going to be designated to be a landfill, and all of these other things started happening. During that time, because of the soil accretion, because of various environmental conditions, the area kind of turned itself into a wetland. It became inundated with mangrove as well, and so we do not believe that it is suitable for agriculture. However, it is very suitable for endangered species management. We have endangered water birds that utilize the area, and the area does serve as important wetland habitat in the Pearl Harbor Basin.
Understood. Thank you very much. When does the city's license agreement with the state for the maintenance of Pahala Marsh expire?
I do not believe there's an expiration date on it.
Okay. Okay, got it. So in perpetuity then. Understood. Okay, thank you. Well, members, are there any questions? Okay. Mr. Masaki, thank you very much for being here. Any questions for our budget director? No, or any of our city agencies? Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Well, we will now proceed with remote testifiers. We don't have any registered remote testifiers. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, members, we don't have any registered in-person testifiers. Is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none, members, we are back in discussion, Just want to see Committee Vice Chair Wire, this is in your district? No, oh, sorry, it's in Councilmember Talbot's district. Okay, understood. And you support the measure. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Members, if there's no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 24-117 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you both. Okay, next we have agendas. Items number 5 and 6, members, with your indulgence, we will take both up as it relates to wastewater revenue, system revenue bonds. First, Resolution 24-185, authorizing the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services to issue and sell not to exceed $563,105,000 principal amount of wastewater system revenue bonds, Senior Series 2024 and related matters, and as well as Resolution 24-186, which authorizes the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services to issue and sell not to exceed $140,360,000 principal amount of wastewater system revenue bonds, Junior Series 2024 and related matters. With us from the administration, we have both Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Quano, as well as Deputy Director Michael O'Keefe from the Department of Environmental Services.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. I want to thank council members for allowing us to answer questions on our resolutions for the issuance of senior and junior revenue bonds to provide for new money for construction purposes for the wastewater system, as well as to advance refund and forward refund selected prior issuances to lower our debt service and to create more financing flexibility in the near term, going out 5 years. Thank you. We'll be here for questions.
Thank you. Before moving forward with any other questions, I was wondering if this is, if there's timing related to these two resolutions?
Yes, we plan to start the order-taking process early in September for the sale of revenue bonds to the public.
Okay, thank you. I think we will work with you, I believe, on this, the first resolution, 24-185, for certain pages missing in the resolution. So, do I have to say it for the record? Do I have to state it for the record? Oh, okay. First off, Budget Director, just wanted to know timing-wise, as we would like to have, where is it? Pages 30, tables, excuse me, tables 37 and 38 that are missing from the resolution. And we'll work with you moving forward from here. May I ask for both resolutions, what is the current balance of the sewer improvement bond fund?
Please repeat your question again. I'm sorry. Yeah.
What's the current balance of the sewer improvement bond fund? What's the current amount?
Of the bond fund?
Yes, sewer improvement bond fund.
Do you mean the bonds outstanding currently?
Yes, correct.
Approximately $2.5 billion in total.
Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, outstanding, yes. And so for both the senior and junior series, were there any previously issued senior or junior wastewater system revenue bonds that were either refunded or so?
In the past, we have refunded both senior and junior bonds. The current structuring of the financing for this year that we intend to implement in September will essentially, if successful, refund all of the junior bonds that are coming up due to free up the amount of capacity we have for debt service in the near term. So when I say near term, 3 to 5 years out, we're going to reduce our debt service load and provide for more flexibility for capital improvements for consent decree projects, primarily in Sand Island.
Understood. Okay, members, do we have any questions for the budget director or even possibly Deputy Director Michael O'Keefe from Environmental Services? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. We will continue discussion after testifiers. We don't have any registered remote testifiers. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, we don't have any registered in-person testifiers. Is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none, members, we are back in discussion relating to both Resolution 24-185 and Resolution 24-186. We will take the motions up separately, though. Nope, okay, thank you very much. First, we will go with Resolution 24-185. The chair recommends that Resolution 24-185 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward, the chair recommends that Resolution 24-186 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward, we have agenda item number 7, which is 24-17, which approves the sale of the P.E. Koi Mini Park Road Remnant Lot 46-1409 P.E. Koi Street in Honolulu, Hawaii. Tax map key 2-4-020:056. Members, as you recall, it was recommitted back to committee in April from almost being adopted. Next, we have first, we have the City Administration Director Kawano.
Good morning again. Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Thank you for allowing us to discuss the transfer of real property related to the sale of P.E. Koi Mini Park. The last time we had a discussion at committee, there were a lot of questions on maintaining green space in the P.E. Koi Lunalino Home Road area, and I believe today we have the interested buyer of the property, Ms. Chang, to discuss her plans and to answer questions from council.
Thank you, members. Members, with your indulgence and for purposes of discussion, would you allow me to call up the interested purchaser? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much to Ms. Ruth Chang for being here today. First up, Kevin Chang. Okay, please state your name so that we know who you are. Press on and off.
Good morning, Budget Chair Cordero and honorable council members. My name is Kevin Chang, representative of RV Ventures. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. First up, we have Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Thank you, sir. I know that we had a dialogue on this, and there were actually community members who had expressed an interest in seeing what could be done to keep it available for the public to use. So my question to you is, what is your intent with this property?
Allow me to provide some context first. Back in 2009, it was actually the city and county budget and fiscal services that reached out to RV Ventures to inquire about the sale of this property to us. So that's how this process started for 15 years ago. And since then, at the time and now, we have an interest and an intent to clean up the area, really. There are, undesirable behaviors or undesirable activities in that space, and has been happening for the last 15 years. We felt like the acquisition of the property would allow us to be able to mitigate that.
Yes, but apart from that, what is your intent? Well, first of all, can you just remind me what is the purchase value, and what are you going to do? Are you going to build something on it?
No, we intend to follow exactly the policies that are laid out here in the purchase of such property, and really secure the space. More than anything, clean up and secure the space. Okay, there's no intention to build on it per this. No one intending.
And I'm sorry, we get it. We have a lot of resolutions today. What is required of it?
What is required of the space?
Yes.
To clean it up.
That's what it just says, clean it up? Is that what the resolution says?
The resolution is to sell the property to RV Ventures so that we can invest in the property and clean it up.
That's it. And I'm sorry, what is the price?
I believe the asking price is $112,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, are there any questions for Mr. Chang? Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chang, thank you very much for being here. Attending the Makiki-Tanlis Neighborhood Board, or this particular parcel is part of their jurisdiction, it would have been kosher if you had maybe made a presentation to explain to them what you were trying to do.
We were notified to be here for questioning yesterday.
No, this is the Makiki-Tanlis Neighborhood Board.
Oh, I see.
Those elected officials that are elected to the board. I had some questions prior, but after reading is that Ruth? Is your mother?
Yeah.
The letter, it gave me some satisfaction that I truly believe what you folks are saying. But more importantly, it is zone preservation. It's not zone apartment at that point in time. And the other question that was posed to me to convey to you and your mother was the fact that they were afraid of the fencing that you're going to put up just to allow the tenants of your apartments to use it. Is there a possibility of opening it up just during the daytime? And then, I don't know how you do it, but locking it up so that the homeless do not...
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you. Is there a possibility of securing the area, or...?
Securing the area, but during the day, you could open it up for the other residents. Or how did you planned in having a fence around it, right? And it was only going to be used for the tenants of these 2 apartments. They were requesting, can it be open to other tenants or residents or neighborhood? But the opportunity would be that you could close it up later in the evening, something like that.
I think we could take a look at it. I'm just not sure how that would solve the issue.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chang, can you repeat your response to Councilmember Say? I didn't hear it.
I think we can consider the option, but I'm not sure how that would solve the particular issue that we're faced with at the moment.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. I now understand. Okay, Councilmember Say, do you have any other further questions?
At this point in time, I thought this is a done deal because at that intersection, I think Mr. Chang would attest to it, and myself and others, that that's where the homeless are encamping, underneath the freeway, across from the post office, and we do have a facility now underneath there, city and county. But yeah, if you can't get them at the intersection of Lunalilo and Picoy, they'll just walk right across the street when you do the SPO. And that's the way the homeless beats the system. After it's cleaned up, then they go back. But it was an interesting discussion because some of the members wanted us to just keep it the way it is. Others said, no, we don't want the homeless to come around. So I'm in strong support of the sale at this point in time.
Thank you. And for clarification, when you said members, you're mentioning, your mention is of neighborhood board members, not
yes.
council members,
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Neighborhood board members.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Members, are there any other questions relating to this? Okay, so first up, Mr. Chang, thank you very much for being here. I do note, as you stated, that it's listed in the resolution that as it's zoned for preservation and there are certain requirements within the Punch Bowl Special District, which this area lays or is located, that certain first off, it's going to remain as a place for recreation, as a park, but it's going to be absolved by RV Ventures property. Is that correct?
It wouldn't remain as in its current state. Currently, it's not secured and it's a public space. Upon the sale, or if the sale is approved, we would secure the area and follow all the guidelines of the preservation district per the sale.
Okay, perfect. And that means that the trees that are located there, or tree that's located there, I think it says here that within the Punch Bowl Special District, trees 6 inches or larger in diameter cannot be removed except for reasons stated in the city's land use ordinance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to, regardless if it's on property or and enclosed or in its current state, we do know that we do need more trees in our city. So I just wanted to state that. That's just my statement. My district really wants trees. Okay, so members, any other questions? Okay. Just want to let you know it did get recommitted. It was in committee. We did have discussion with, and the budget director did his very best to provide information. So we really appreciate you being here and answering questions. When we were going out for adoption, the questions from the community persisted, and so that's why we appreciate you joining us in this committee to discuss this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Members, any other questions? Okay, next we will move towards testimony, and there's a discussion time afterwards if there's any further questions, but we'll go to testimony now. Okay, next, we do not have any registered remote testifiers, but is there anyone online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, members, we do not have anyone in person registered to testify, but is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Okay, none. Seeing none, members, we are back in discussion, members. Members, I want to thank you all because this committee before did support the resolution moving forward. So I just want to let you know, Mr. Chang, that this committee did move it forward to be adopted before. And with that, the chair recommends to again recommend that Resolution 24-17 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, moving forward. Resolution, agenda item number 8, Resolution 24-165, which approves a one-time compromise of the real property taxes owed by Halekipa Incorporated for the tax year beginning July 1, 2023, in the amount of $7,332 plus any accrued interest and penalties owing on the property located at 1828A Makuahina Street, Honolulu, Hawaii 96817, identified by tax map key 1-6-028-040, such that said taxes are compromised to the minimum tax of $300 in accordance with Council Resolution 11-259. Okay, first up, we have from the City Administration, Director Kawano, the Director for Budget and Fiscal Services.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Budget Chair, thank you for allowing us to discuss this resolution. We believe that and request for the tax compromise because due to a late execution of a lease for this organization, Halekipa, they did not qualify for their exemption for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023. As a result, they have approximately $7,300 of taxes that they should not have paid. And because the city was late in execution of the lease, we feel that to be fair to this organization that serves youths on premise, we compromise and waive the additional taxes due for that 1 year. They currently have their exemption back in place, and we believe that the year that they lost the exemption was the city's fault, and therefore the taxpayer shouldn't have to pay the extra taxes.
Members, any questions for Director Kawano on this? Halekipa? Okay, I guess just a statement that used to be in my council district before it was cut out by my council district. Okay, so let's see here. If there's no other questions, I'm going to go to testifiers, and we can, if you think of questions, let me know. So we don't have any registered remote testifiers, but is there anyone online who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none, we don't have any registered in-person testifiers, but is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Okay, Angela?
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying in strong support. So the resolution mentions it will set parameters for real property tax compromise in regards to Halekipa, which is a site consisting of 2 family dwellings of 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms for emergency shelter for teens 12 to 19. And since 1970, the nonprofit charity has championed Hawaii's children and youth, and it provides outreach to children and teens, independent living facilities, therapeutic foster care, and a haven for runaways. The founders recognize the need for a nonprofit to step in to assist the marginalized and low-income, underserved demographic, and are performing critical work with its programs, and so it requests a compromise, and we're in strong support. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify on this resolution? Okay, seeing none. Members, we are back in discussion. Back in discussion for Resolution 24-165. Seeing none, okay. The chair recommends that Resolution 24-165 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward, we have agenda item number, moving forward, agenda item number 9, we have Resolution 24-160. Members, I do note that discussion item is a similar topic, but if there's mention of the discussion item legislation number, maybe may I ask that we talk about the context of the bill as opposed to listing the actual title, please? Thank you very much. First up, we have Resolution 24-160, which urges the city administration to propose a new set of policies and priorities relating to the use of CDBG funds to support community nonprofit organizations, including in particular acquisition projects. This was introduced by Council Vice Chair Kia Aina. So I'll yield the floor to her before calling up the administration. Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
First of all, I just wanted to thank Budget Chair Cordero for having this meeting. As many of you heard from the chair, I introduced both a resolution and a bill. My objective was to provide as many tools possible to urge the administration to heed my call to increase the number of nonprofits who receive CDBG funding. So members, as I shared at our July 10th council meeting, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG program, is a source of invaluable support for our local nonprofit partners who serve our most vulnerable populations, including households experiencing homelessness, at-risk youth, domestic violence survivors, and our kupuna. For decades, the city's practice of awarding CDBG funds to nonprofits supported the building of a stronger and more resilient Honolulu through the development of Special Olympics facilities, low-income housing, food pantry facilities, homes for the developmentally disabled, emergency shelters, and housing for homeless individuals and families, and support facilities for at-risk youth. But over time, the city shifted its CDBG focus away from the funding of nonprofits, and they funded city projects. And it was not until the COVID-19 pandemic that the city renewed its focus on the important role these organizations play in supporting our community. During the pandemic, nonprofits efficiently and effectively used CDBG funds to help our kupuna access food and meals, to provide affordable housing to low and moderate income households affected by the coronavirus or housing domestic violence survivors, to provide non-congregate homeless shelters and support services, and to help low and moderate income families access legal services. The city needs to continue supporting this work, and it needs to commit to clear CDBG policies and priorities so its support for nonprofits will not come and go as attention shifts. That is why I introduced this resolution to urge the city administration to propose updated policies that prioritize CDBG funding for nonprofits and require the city to direct a portion of its annual CDBG award to nonprofits, particularly acquisition projects. Work done under this resolution will build on the foundation laid by Council Resolution 12-11, 2012, to firmly establish and better implement the city's commitment to our nonprofit partners. I thank you for your time and consideration, and I urge your support for this important resolution.
Thank you. Members, I will now call up the Director of Community Services, Director Krucky. Hello, Director, again.
Thank you. Anton Krucky, Director, Department of Community Services, Budget Chair Cordera, Budget Chair, Vice Chair Wire, Vice Chair Kia Aina, and council members. Being from the Department of Community Services, I naturally lie within the attitude of this resolution. We've been very supportive of that. We're just one of the players in the CBDG committee that moves these projects forward. But I will say that you're in your talk, heeding the call that you've had. We've heard that call. I've heard it over the last 2 years since I've been in this position, and we've shifted we have shifted to the attitude of this resolution. Later in the day at the Housing Committee, we'll be putting out for adoption a finalized lease in Wahiwa with Family Promise, which was purchased with CBDG money last year. And at the end of this year's timeliness, we put out a NOFA, and Mental Health Kakua was awarded that project to purchase a piece. We're just starting the new year of the CBDG, and we have a NOFA that is in purchasing right now that will go out to nonprofits. And we kind of expanded it for acquisitions and other projects. So all of the things that are in this resolution, I believe from the department's view, that they better our community. And we're very supportive of that and have been pushing that as one member in that committee doing that. So I think the benefits that you've laid out are clear. And we've already started to adopt that momentum that you've suggested all along, Vice Chair.
Thank you, members. Any questions for the director? Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
Thank you for your leadership and for what you just stated. I understand that you will be putting out a new process for CDBG. Could you share with the committee what your plans are with regard to the new solicitation or notice for the upcoming process for CDBG competition?
Sure. So, the challenge with CBDG is timeliness.
Yeah.
And you have to spend the money, and that's a key word, spend the money, by a certain time frame in May. And if you don't spend the money, then it's kind of a double-edged sword. So what happens is you're short, and then the HUD can look at your shortness and the next year say, maybe you didn't need all the funding that you got last year. And so one is you didn't use the money, and then you may have it taken away the next year. So it twice counts against you. That's where acquisitions are very helpful, because if you can meet that deadline, you spend the money. Some of the projects you have where you have delays and things like in product delays and things like that, encumbering the money won't work, right? You have to spend the money, so that's important. So right in recognizing that, the committee has authorized putting out a notice of funding availability, and it's in the final stages in purchasing right now. And we have organizations that we talk to about it as we try to educate them on how do you apply for this money for their program. So I expect that to be going out hopefully before the end of this month. And so we'll be at the beginning of the cycle, which I'm very encouraged by.
And is the majority of those funds going to be for nonprofit organizations?
Well, they'd be open for anybody to participate because it's a notice of availability. But from DCS's point of view, we have all our discussions are with nonprofits to apply for
Okay, got it. I'm sorry. But what I'm worried about is when the city sends out a notice to all of the agencies, and I just don't want encroachment by the agencies to think that they're going to be getting some of these funds.
Well, we'll certainly include that comment in our committee discussions. I appreciate that. I very much, like I said, from Department of Community Services viewpoint, that's who we service.
Okay, thank you so much. And then, as I mentioned in our meeting, and I want to let the chair know for this upcoming budget fiscal service, I believe strongly in the CDBG program. I believe that they should have a full-time staffer. That staffer should not be having to worry about other projects. And so I'm going to be urging that the FTE only be for this program. And, I do have concerns over the $1 million going to the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services. I guess I just don't understand that. If you had a competent program manager, I don't understand why most of that money can just be going to that person to run the program administratively in concert with BFS. That's all. $1 out of $8 million is a lot of money. Anyway, thank you so much.
Members, are there any questions relating to this resolution? And we do have opportunities also in the discussion item. First up, we have our committee vice chair Wire, followed by Councilmember Say.
Thank you, Chair. Mahalo, Director. So I was curious, when we're talking about updating the policies, is it your thought that they'll be incorporated into the upcoming consolidated plan? Or what was kind of the approach? Because I'm just looking at the resolution and it's just requesting admin to I guess, adopt and then implement the policies to get the funding out to nonprofits?
In the committee meetings that we have, that discussion is really separate from a policy discussion. If we want to, come up with a policy of what we're doing, right now we're just trying to execute the funding in a timeliness manner. I think that in getting the funding out, that we've done something, at least in the time frame I've been here, that is new. We've done this at the beginning of the year with a whole bit of money, and we're going out to the service providers. If we get those projects in, they'll be competing at the level that this discussion is all about for those funds.
I appreciate that. And then I guess either for you or Budget BFS Director, I'm just curious, when does the drafting begin for the July 1, 2026 to 2030 consolidated plan? Is that kind of start next year or?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember Wire. The planning for the consolidated plan, which is the 5-year plan, will probably start this fall. Where we will gather information, and as Director Krucky mentioned, the policy changes to focus on nonprofits will be included in the plan. The issue that we've had from prior administration coming into our current administration is that we've had these long multi-year park projects that have been struggling to expend funds for various reasons. Some of it was SHPD approval. The other part was logistics. We've had cost increase issues where we've gotten bids far above estimates, so that required a rebid process. So what we're going to do currently is as we've discussed during the budget process for FY25, we have funds set aside in CIP to finish the park projects so that we can program CIP funds for acquisitions for nonprofits and for other programs that benefit the communities. So, but we're going to do the 5-year plan. We're going to work on that starting this fall in that time frame for FY26 on. And the 5-year plan will provide governance for the annual plans that we put out.
Okay, I appreciate that. I know currently it notes that the city will focus a majority of its CDBG funds to infrastructure facility projects that are located in neighborhoods where at least 51% of the residents are low and moderate income. So I'm assuming that's why a lot of this goes into parks, and so far has been going into parks.
It's been going into parks, fire, in neighborhoods that qualify, in terms of the income levels that we're supposed to be serving, lower to mid-income level households. So fire has benefited. And then as Director Krucky mentioned, we're going to be doing the NOFA to assist nonprofits in terms of funding for facility development or acquisition.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Just to clarify though, because I know part of the resolution, and really grateful for Vice Chair's, bringing this conversation up and getting it moving, because I'm wholeheartedly agree with getting more funding out to our nonprofits. I know part of it is requiring a portion of the CDBG actually be awarded. I'm just wondering if that's concerning at all. I know.
I think perhaps we could look at wording that says primarily programmed to nonprofit acquisitions, because when you say awarded, it may be too restrictive, because we want the ability to reprogram to alternate projects if necessary. So if an acquisition initiative gets stuck and cannot expend funds timely, we want the ability to come in front of council to ask for a reprogram to an alternate project so that we can continue expending funds. But yeah, definitely we're going to give the nonprofits, we're going to pivot from what happened during last administration and provide more focus on funding nonprofits going forward.
Okay, Mahalo, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Council Member Say, followed by Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Mr. Kawano, Director Kawano, in listening to the discussion, what is your definition of acquisition? Is it the bricks and mortar that we're buying a building for the nonprofit?
Actually, the nonprofit is the entity that's doing the acquisition or development. So they're building facilities to provide services to the public.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But wouldn't the nonprofit disclose to all of you their financial plan on their acquisition before you give the CDBG grant? The reason why I say this, if they don't get that money that they need as a total financial package, all the development, you can't use the CDBG grant. And you don't want to earmark it or tie it up too, right? That's why I'm saying it's just like developers that come before the council. Now they want city monies as part of their financial plan in getting their projects off the ground. And I'm saying that's not right. So how can you try to improve the process? That's why I thought if you were to tell me this project is going to cost $5 million, I have $4 million already set aside in the financials. I need that $1 million for CDBG. Can they not show you that $4 million so that you can encumber the $1 million?
What I will do is call on Director Kruck and his staff, because when they do their NOFAs, they're more involved in the review process to determine which nonprofit should receive funding. So I'll call on them so you have actual, information, and perhaps maybe they can talk about Mental Health Kukua that recently received funding for facility development.
Thank you. The acquisition of properties don't necessarily have to be made by the service provider, council member. The city can acquire the property, and then in this case, like this afternoon, what we'll be looking at, leasing at a very low rate to a service provider. The reason for doing that is I think that the city, my view is the city's strength is being able to offer facilities. Where the issues become is when they may not have the operational funds to run the programs that they want to run. And what we hope is that by the city taking the burden of the acquisition off of them, then that all of their funds can go towards operations. And so that's what we look at when we're looking at the different organizations, their capabilities to be able to service these. And then we get into many other opportunities to fund operations. So we have service opportunities within HUD money. We have other projects that we can do. Some of the acquisitions like Mental Health Kukua, they were already in that building, but much of their money was paying the lease to be in that building. And so we used these funds at the beginning May for them to buy that building. And so that took that burden off of them to then provide better services. So it's a case by case, but we're very focused on long-term operational capabilities of the organizations, which raise them up in the evaluations.
Okay. So that's where we have that breakdown of communication, because for me, I always felt that acquisition was that I would get title to that property. Even with the city's contribution, we should get some title to it. But you folks are helping the nonprofits, and I think what Vice Chair is requesting is not they get the CDBG goes direct to the nonprofit, or can they be the conduit? DCS. I don't know.
Councilmember Say, do you want to ask that question to DCS?
The question that I wanted to pose was the fact that, one, you guys are the conduits on behalf of the nonprofits. But the nonprofits are not receiving the funds. You guys are doing the acquisition, right?
We do both.
Both?
Yeah, like Mental Health Kukua, they received the funds and bought the property. The Wahiwa property with Family Promise, the city will own that property and then lease it out at a very low rate to Family Promise. So we do both.
Okay, Director. But the timing of it is what you guys also stated. If you're not encumbering the funds during a certain period, what happens then? the nonprofit?
The timeliness issue is a spending issue, sir.
Correct.
And so we just either have to make the acquisition on our side, or when we give them the money, they have to close their acquisition by that time frame. And that's what we monitor as we go forward.
See, that's why originally I said, if this is a project for a nonprofit and they have 4 million already in their financials, and they're coming before you to say, we need 1 million for the balance of this project.
Yes, that can occur in their application for the funding.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have Council Vice Chair Kian.
And Chair, I hope this is appropriate as opposed to when we have discussion, but since it was raised with regard to my verbiage on page 4 of the resolution relating to including, can I share what my thoughts are here?
Okay, please.
So first off, if you look at the clause, it says, be it further resolved that any draft policy proposed will include a requirement that a portion of the city's annual CDBG award be awarded to nonprofit organizations, comma, including. That is not exclusively for acquisition projects. In other words, the priority is simply to award projects to nonprofit, comma, including means it can include acquisition projects but not be exclusive to that. So I just want to make clear. Second, BFS already has the authority to provide alternative projects. That's what you do. And so I don't believe there needs to be additional language here because you already have that authority. And that's how the plan works. Third, this is not a bill. The bill is up for discussion right in around the corner, right? Which is why I crafted a resolution separate from that. A resolution just provides guidance. It's aspirational. It is not binding. And so I feel very comfortable with the manner of how this resolution is crafted, and I believe it provides the appropriate guidance on what my intent is with regard to the program.
Council member, I would like to just mention that in that spirit that you just said, when we put out this current NOFA, we had it was articulated as acquisitions, and we pulled it back in at DCS and put and other projects so that we could do exactly what you were saying.
Okay, Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question in terms of projects besides acquisition. So for example, like I know the resolution mentions other funding opportunities like volunteer legal services, Hawaii Public Health Institute, particularly I think because the CARES Act funding for CDBG had no restriction on the percentage that could be used for services, right? What is that cap? Is there, what is the cap on the annual CDBG allocation?
15 is the cap.
Meaning that the city couldn't use more than 15% of the award that we get from HUD?
Yes, that's correct.
On other types of, services and whatnot, right? So like operations for nonprofits?
It could be that kind of funding. It could also be other projects like, someone has an idea of, I want to reach you for healthcare services, but I need to put up a Wi-Fi network to be able to do that, right? So the project could take that kind of a look as well.
Yeah, and again, maybe you'd get into analysis of how far does that go into operations versus maybe it elevates to CIP depending on the type of infrastructure that they need to put in. I mean, it's not always extremely clear cut, right?
Well, as Director Kawano said, he's already moving CIP funding to release some of these projects that have been, in the CBDG process out of that to be able to do what you're saying. So the answer is really yes, in being able to do that. And then at DCS, we kind of preview, because we have other sources of fundings that are going to these nonprofits. So we want them all to work together so that they can deliver their services, right?
Mahalo. And just my last question for both you and BFS Director, whoever wants to answer. If say we put into our consolidated plan, our HUD-approved consolidated plan that we're going to allocate exactly like say 30% or 40% for nonprofits, do we see that as feasible and I mean, I'm assuming HUD would be okay with that, or that'd be up to them. But then, of course, if we need to come back and change it, like, what does that process look like?
So I think 30% is doable just based on recent activity, you know, of recent years. So as Vice Chair Kiana mentioned, typically you have your primary projects that are programmed under CDBG, and then you have alternate projects, so that if any of your primary projects for any reason get stuck, you know, there's some issue and you cannot spend down, we have the ability to go in front of council to request for reprogramming to one of the alternate projects that's in the annual plan. So that's in place. So I think that flexibility is important because of the timeliness requirement that we have to meet every year. So timeliness specifically is what HUD does is they look at the grant we get every year. So let's say it's $8 million. You multiply that times 1.5, so that's $12 million. At the end of the year for the program, you can only have $12 million in funds available. If you have any more, you have not met timeliness. And the funds available include any income generated from asset sales, so assets acquired using CDBG funds, or program income, like you build a building with parking and you collect fees for parking. That fee income is program income, and it's added to the cash fund available. So we have to be on top of that. The spend down has to be diligently monitored and executed throughout the year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other discussion on this? Committee Vice Chair Wire.
I had discussion, no more questions. And I do, I appreciate Vice Chair's sentiment. And again, I think I still have the same concern about putting in a specific required award percentage into our consolidated plan and action plans, yearly action plans, just because I totally agree we should put them out in NOFAs, make them available to the community. Obviously, if folks come with an acquisition, we award that, right? But then say that falls through, the alternatives won't necessarily have that land available. I mean, I know when I was at DCS, we went through that exact issue with some of the awards, like, trying to find a property, go through the Part 58 environmental compliance, maybe that property falls out, and then the nonprofit's looking for another one, and then if you're required by law to then allocate to another, acquisition or whatnot, maybe it's open to services, but that's capped under CDBG. So then if we meet that cap, we can't continue to put that funding out for services. I don't think it's necessarily bad for those funds to be available to come back into the community through a park or a fire station or Kauai if they have a need, and that funding can be reprogrammed for that. So that's my only concern, was just specifying a specific requirement with the percentage. But I wholeheartedly value and appreciate Vice Chair's position and understand what's been said.
Chair.
Thank you. Council Vice Chair Kiana.
Thank you so much for pointing that out, Councilmember Wire. And just to make sure that everyone's clear today with regard to the two vehicles, again, the resolution versus the bill. My resolution, the current one that we are considering right now, has no percentage, and that was deliberate. And that was to provide the greatest flexibility for Department of Community Services. But when I care deeply about an issue, my job is to look at various tools to get you to move the dial forward, which is why I crafted the bill, which had a 30% requirement. Chair Cordero has agendized it as a discussion item, which is completely appropriate because it is not my intent to seek a movement on that bill, given the movement that is happening on the part of the administration in showing goodwill. But because I did introduce it, I have it at hand at any time to seek movement on it if I feel that the dial on CDBG for nonprofits is not moving forward. So I want to make sure my colleagues know we are not voting on a percentage in this resolution. We are simply encouraging that they award projects to nonprofits, comma, including acquisition projects. That does not mean that it has to be acquisition projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I think that provides sufficient legislative intent for me to be fully supportive of the resolution, so mahalo.
Mahalo. Thank you very much. I'll reserve my question or questions for the discussion, but discussion item. But are there any other comments for this resolution? Okay. First, next, I'll go to. We don't have any registered remote testifiers. Is there anyone online who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing no one online, we don't have any registered in-person testifiers, but is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Angela.
Aloha. Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. Some of these nonprofits CARES has personally worked with, such as Adults Friends for Youth, which are students labeled at risk by teachers because they cause trouble at school, and we're an after-school program and an art class, so we've worked with them. And also, we've had professional and social interactions with friends and professionals from Special Olympics, which improves the health of the community with disabilities while providing training and education to build inclusive community health operations by including schools, youth leaders, and coaches to build together. So funding for these groups should be prioritized. So this policy is to support CDBG funding for a list of domestic violence-focused groups and other programs focused on assisting socially disadvantaged populations. When resources are not provided, it has a disproportionate effect on racially diverse ethnic groups. So the wealth and income disparity is a result of an income inequality because of a lack of resources, which results in worse standards of living and
thank you. So support.
Yes, support.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify? Please state your name for the record. Press the on and off button. And then say your name for the record and your position and your testimony.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pua Freitas. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Madam, it is my honor, to join this, Mr. Say. Thank you. I am in support. I am in definite support of this for nonprofits. I would like to mention one of the nonprofits that I've been working with, and the name of this nonprofit is He'ala Ho O Keola Inc. And this is in support of a lot of the men that's coming out of prison, and he is making such a tremendous impact in our district in Kalihi, and he's got several homes. And it's unbelievable. So yes, I am in support for this to going to nonprofit organizations because domestic violence is another, homelessness. I am support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Pua. Is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, members are back in discussion. Okay, I hope you guys saved some for the discussion item. Okay. Okay, next, my recommendation is the chair recommends that resolution 24-160 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward to our discussion item on Bill 35, 2024. So this bill, as touched a little bit upon in the last item, will be amending requirements for approval of certain community development block grant program agreements involving the city and county of Honolulu. I know that we did discuss this a little bit, but this bill was introduced by our Council Vice Chair Kia Aina. I don't know if you want to head us up before we call on the DCS director.
No, no more comments. I think we had a robust conversation, and there's part of me that was going to say maybe we don't need to move forward on this, but they may have prepared for a presentation for this. But I think that a lot of the dialogue occurred in the previous consideration. So I just, again, members, the reason for introducing a bill, because the bill is a hammer, of course. It's a mandate that a certain percentage would have required 30%. And I don't believe at this point in time, given the good faith gesture of the administration, that there is a need for me to be seeking action on this. But I have it in my toolbox, and I just think that it's still good for us to better understand the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Krucky, I know that a lot of questions have been asked of you, but if you could please join us here as it relates to the bill and the context of the bill.
Thank you, Budget Chair Cordera. I am very supportive of everything we've talked about. I think that DCS as an organization has tried to, that we're not trying to move towards a department that does acquisitions more or such. What we really are is we're a department that looks after the best interests of delivering human services in the city and county of Honolulu. And so when that becomes an acquisition or support and using a tool like CBDG to do that, I'm first in line, with that, trying to push that agenda. I think it is important within the context of this bill to recognize that we're just one player of that committee, and Director Kawano, talked about that very well. Also within CBDG, it doesn't have to be acquisitions, as I stated before. It could be the type of project I talked about. We recently had a conversation with the local HUD office, and they were talking about you could use CBDG for solar panels on buildings that were servicing, the population mix that CBDG services. We also, though, we have to educate our service providers that CBDG has a lot of rules that come with it. It's not just free money to be used. It's very distinctive on how it can be used, and you have obligations for many years, 20 years, to keep those obligations up. And if you're acquiring money with use of a CBDG building, you may not be able to incorporate that in your operations. It has to come back to who's really the owner of the building is HUD, and that's how we talked about the money coming into the CBDG funds. A parking lot would be a great example. But all in all, this movement of understanding the use of these federal funds and how we can get them to be delivering services in our community, DCS, it's what we're written about. That's what we do. So thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions before I ask a question? As this bill stated, it did request for a portion, and currently, is the CDBG divvied between different percentages of city agency use, whether it be parks or whatever, or even DCS or DDC for other improvements, as well as awarding out?
So in the committee, we haven't structured our conversations that you have this percentage and you have this percentage. It really was, we had projects lined up that were using the funds, and then we'd make our cases like, I don't think you're going to be able to spend that money in time. I'd like to make a case for my project at this point in time. So at this point in time, BFS in the committee management, they look at just the overall fund, and then we all play within that box. But everyone in the administration understands service providers and what they bring. So there's always a strong voice on that when we're giving that attitude in there. But we don't get assigned a certain percentage of the money going forward. It's all one thing with an attitude of ensuring that we utilize the assets in a way that we meet timeliness, but also we meet the spirit of what HUD wants to deliver. Our HUD relationship isn't a 1 year at a time relationship. It's an ongoing relationship with the local office and the national to ensure that we're meeting all these projects. Some of our conversations with the HUD office are really about projects that were awarded 8 years ago, and we're still discussing usage. If now the service provider wants to change what they do, we have to evaluate that. CBDG is money with a lot of rules, and we analyze that as well.
Okay, Director Cookie, when you said CDBG is money with a lot of holes, so when you say that, does that mean it's limiting?
It's very directive in how you can use the money, and that those directives last for a long time. So it's specific, it's very rigid, and it's a long time. So sometimes it may not be the best source of funds for your project. We analyze, we look at a project, I think you'd be too restricted by applying for CBDG money. It might be, that particular fund might not be where you want to go. And we try to offer that advice to our service providers as well.
Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it because let's say we do purchase, or there's a property purchase using CDBG funds, and you said it's a long time, it's restrictive. Is there a process then to be able to refinance this? And I know the answer, but I just want to ask.
Yes, you can refinance and actually get out of those obligations that you have. So you can do that. But within that concept, think about if the city, as hard as it would be for us to have to, if a building we had no longer met the requirements, we would have to pay HUD back that money. And that would be difficult. We'd have a lot of conversations about it. For a service provider having to do that, that could be, a significant event for them that potentially wouldn't recover from. And so we try to take those things into consideration as we go forward.
Okay, thank you. And the introducer of both this item and the last item mentioned that I think you would be sharing with the council in the future about further about plans for amending CDBG rules or policies. Are there anything that's hindering the CDBG policies currently within the department, or to meet any goals?
I don't want to speak fully for Director Kawano on this, but my observation is that as opposed to writing a policy that would tell you that, our actions will describe our policy. And so our actions being that we're looking at taking money out of parks projects and using CIP outside of CBDG money to take that burden off of this, so we can in fact, place more money in the hands of service providers for their projects. I think the actions start to show you the policy.
Okay, thank you. That's pretty vague, I would say, but how about Director Kawano?
I just want to echo what Director Krupke said, but maybe a little differently. I believe that our CON plan, the 5-year plan, will provide evidence that we're committed to pivot and allocate more of the funding to nonprofits for acquisitions and other public services. So it will show what our policy is in terms of taking actions through a plan to do that. That 5-year plan will provide guidance on all of the annual plans that we review, and it should provide the direction we're going in for the next 5 years. I just wanted to add on the question of city-owned property acquired by CDBG funds. If we were to return, if you will, CDBG monies back to HUD, what local HUD will probably do is put it back into our available funding and tell us, you better go find something else to spend it on as a part of your timeliness. So that's always going to be, a challenge for us whenever we sell assets acquired by CDBG funds. But getting back to the original question, I just wanted to cover that. I think the plans that we discuss with council will show what our policies are and our commitment going forward.
Okay, thank you. And maybe this may not be for Director Kawano, so maybe for Director Krupke, relating to the timeliness and when it is returned, when the CDBG funds are returned, and we need to look at who the next either project or program would be. do we see a pattern of when those funds are normally returned or the viability of the project is deemed unviable, or the timing is just not going to make it?
Well, my observation, that's a great question, Budget Chair. My observation was that when we were dealing with projects that were the city projects, that it wasn't until about November that we could project out that we weren't going to make timeliness in May. And so, you know, my attitude on that was that I would start proposing my projects in September to the committee, and I would put that in there, and as if it looked like the odds were going down on the other ones, the odds of my project were going up. So I didn't wait till November to propose. You know, I would start proposing early in the year on projects that we could do.
Thank you. That's actually really good insight. I didn't know that timing as well, specifically.
Well, the issue becomes is if you don't do something by November, December, January, you may not have the time to execute an acquisition that would spend the money, because you have to do an environmental, you have to get appraisals, you know, and the seller has to be willing to sell with terms of CBDG. There's, you know, the appraised value is the value that we can purchase it at. We don't negotiate. So if you wait too long, you add the risk that even though you might have a great project, you can't meet timeliness.
Understood. Understood. Okay, well, thank you, members, for indulging me, and directors, both directors, for answering my questions. Next, we have the council members, the committee members. Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And this is more just for discussion in the committee. Thank you, Director. Just kind of trying to wrap my mind around, because rereading the bill, and I really appreciate the direction we're going. I'm just wondering if we're categorizing the city purchased projects that are then leased out at nominal rates in a completely different category, or if the committee sees it as kind of serving the same function, or if the goal is more we want it directly out. And that's just food for thought, because I know Sunshinely, we can't all sit around and talk about it after committees. So just wanted to throw that out there, because I think going through your discussion, yeah, I'm just wondering if the value is also in projects like that, where maybe organizations know properties they want to use, but for whatever reason, there's limitations on their capacity to take it on fully. But sometimes through city acquisitions and then doing these nominal leases, we can make them more readily available, but then at the same time, transition them to other nonprofits down the line if there's issues that arise with their, you know, overseeing that particular property.
Okay, thank you. And do you have a question for the administration at all?
No, that was just
No?
for the
Okay.
committee, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. I have, anyone else have any other questions? Okay, I have a question for maybe Director Krucky. In addition to what Committee Vice Chair Wire mentioned, actually maybe, I don't know if it's in addition, but what triggered this question is from his comments. If, this might sound weird, partial acquisition can be accomplished through CDBG, and whether or not a possible city and I guess awarded CDBG nonprofit are able to hold a property, like, I guess, together. I don't know if that makes sense.
There is flexibility in how you might break out the funding of a project, but if CBDG goes into the project, it's federalized, and the project has to follow all of those rules that come with it. So the financial obligation is just to the extent of the financial contribution, but the whole project becomes federalized.
Okay, understood. And for CDBG, for nonprofits who receive CDBG funding, they wouldn't be barred from receiving any GIA or any other types of funding as well, would they?
No, it wouldn't. It is its own category. It's awarded. It's, you know, programmed for them. But usually, if you look at all of the people on a list, we have multiple sets of relationships with them. Yes.
True. Okay. Thank you. Members, any other questions? I'm gonna change, oh, okay. Oh, okay, so my question then is, as it relates to, I guess when you're changing the priorities within the plan as it relates to CDBG and where you're going to be focusing them, with the different, I guess, DPR sites that received CDBG funding, and I know you're not DPR, but will you be looking at discussing with DPR how much money that would be to then have them start to budget for, like any projects that they had down the line, whether it have been, 5-10 years down the line, that they probably would have thought that CDBG would be available for them? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. That's a really interesting question at a lot of different levels. I think that, the park, it's worth to recognize, although that's a city project, they're serving communities that are low-income communities that meet the requirements for CBDG. That's why that we could award for those projects. So those communities, need the services of well-run parks, and so that has its own piece. But I think that Director Kawano has worked with us in a very collaborative way to understand how we can now have the capability of moving some of those projects into a normal CIP budgeting and execution there. The challenge with those wasn't about what they were. It was difficult on these long multi-year projects to use CBDG funding to execute them because of the timeliness issue.
Okay, thank you. Did the city have trouble, the city DPR or DDC have trouble meeting those timeliness issues as well?
That's been a big challenge ever since I've been in the administration. So it's something we focused on. I think we made a great move in the Wahiawa acquisition to get us to a goal line that we hadn't been to in a while. And that's important because HUD is flexible a bit. And if they believe that you're moving towards what they want you to achieve, they actually give you some flexibility to achieve that. And we work hard to have a good communication with the local office to be able to support us to the national office. But the national office has a lot of local offices making their presentations to them. So, you run a risk in that. And so just meeting it is the best way to do it.
Okay, understood. And so with the different priorities and any shifts in the plan, is that in concert with the local office for HUD, or just DCS trying to meet those recommendations, point blank?
Well, when we present the consolidated plan to the council, we all are in agreement of it. We've gone through those conversations. We've sorted that out, and when we present it, we are all in agreement.
Understood. Thank you very much. Members, any questions relating to Bill 35 discussion item? Okay. Comments? Okay. Yes.
Just comment. I greatly appreciate both what each of the directors said relating to actions as well as the plans, the 5-year plans, Director Kawano. So greatly appreciate what both of you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I know we took this testimony for, the last item, but we don't have any registered remote testifiers, but is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? This is just a discussion item. Okay, seeing none, we don't have any registered in-person testifiers. Is there anyone in person who wishes to testify on this discussion item, not action item? Angela.
This is for item 10, right?
Discussion item.
Okay, so I'm testifying in favor of the discussion item. So it's about the funding mechanism, right? So it will make it easier from funding to flow from the federal office to the state, to the nonprofit, and then to the community. And the faster and more efficient the funds can get to the community, the bottom level, then it resolves the community concerns. in a quicker and more efficient manner. So CARES is not a nonprofit requesting GIA funds, so this is not a conflict of interest for me to raise up concerns of the necessity of facilitating CDBG funding. It is so necessary because a lack of resources, right, and income inequality, which is the quality of equal income and resources for a group. So the lack of resources results in a limit in opportunities to improve standards of living and financial security for those who suffer the inequity. And so inequity is a result such as health inequity, right? Those within the domestic violence people groups and socially disadvantaged groups, they lack health equity, which is something that policy can assist with.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, members, we are back in discussion on this discussion item. Okay, seeing none. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.